Welcome to Talking Industrial Automation, a podcast where you get to know the people who make modern industrial automation possible. You will get to hear from CSIA system integrators and industry partners to get a better understanding of how they help their clients solve process challenges and how they've earned success in their careers. Along the way, we will touch on system integration best practices, technology, trends, and challenges. Whether you are a manufacturer, end user, supplier, or system integrator, you will enjoy the insights these industry professionals bring to this podcast. Let's get started. Hi, my name is Lisa Richter, the host of Talking Industrial Automation, a podcast where you get to know the people who make modern industrial automation and processing possible. In today's episode, we're talking industrial automation with Chris Tury Jr., partner and general manager of Outbound Technologies Inc. with offices in Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. In this role, he is responsible for leading sales, recruiting, and day-to-day operations at the company's headquarters location, where he and his colleagues help customers with custom solutions for continuous process and discrete automation applications. Previously, Chris spent several years in industrial construction, where he worked coordinating the efforts of dozens of contractors for large projects. Chris has been part of the growth of Outbound to a $15 million systems integrator that just celebrated its 25th anniversary. Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, Lisa.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give you an easy one first. How would you describe to lay people what you do?
You know, that is an easy question only because I get asked that so frequently. So that's a really, really good starting point. You know, what I like to tell people is, you know, when you look around in day-to-day life and you observe everyday objects, your clothing, your desk, the walls, everything around you that you see is probably manufactured in some sort of factory or facility somewhere. Save for the trees and those things from Mother Nature, everything else is made. All of these factories and facilities have some type of production equipment, whether it's a robot, a punch, a press, a conveyor, whatever have you. Our company develops the circuitry, we write the software, and we manipulate all the signals that control these various types of machines. So really what we're doing is we're composing software for industrial computers and networks that control and monitor all of these different machines that make all different forms of products. We also select and install the hardware, the control panels, the instrumentation and sensors that give us the feedback in order to manipulate and control the machinery. So I guess in summary, I would say we're the brains of modern day machinery.
All right, let's talk about Outbound. Can you give us a little history about how it began and grew?
Absolutely. Our company was founded in 1994 here in the Detroit, Michigan area. Like most companies, we had to take our existing experience and figure out what our niche would be. And we got our start in what's known as the abatement industry. Abatement is pollution control based on the byproduct of industrial processes. So a really good example and one that we deal with a lot on a day-to-day basis is automotive paint finishing. When a vehicle is painted nowadays, part of the byproduct of that process is a VOC. VOCs are volatile organic chemicals or compounds. Abatement system concentrates those VOCs, that laden air with the polluted molecules, and it forces it through filtration media to get out the heavy particulate. After that, what's left in the air gets pushed through ductwork. These superheated chambers, if you will, very, very high temperatures are used to incinerate the balance of these VOCs. Back in the mid-1980s, there really weren't robust regulatory standards by the EPA to put standards around industrial air quality. So that's really when the abatement industry was born, if you will, was around that time period, right around when our company started. Our success in abatement led us to and exposed us to the other tentacles, as I like to say, in the automotive industry. Automotive has powertrain, it has stamping, it has general assembly, it has body and white, it has all these other areas. Our success in the paint area allowed us to make inroads in some of these other sectors of automotive. That was good for us for a while, and I've been in Detroit my whole life, and the automotive industry is very near and dear to me. However, it's a really cyclical industry. It has good times and bad times, and we wanted our company to be more diverse. So after 6 years, in the year 2000, we decided that we would open up another office, and we selected Indianapolis, Indiana, which is a great town. Our big attraction to Indianapolis was that it's really the North American epicenter of the pharmaceutical industry. We joke around, if Detroit's the motor city, then maybe Indy is the drug city. Back in 2000, we didn't have a large abundance of competition at the time, and the pharmaceutical industry is very, very close to recession-proof. So that was where first real big steps to kind of diversify our firm. The other thing that was nice is it's not that far away from Michigan, so it was easy for us to share resources for collaboration and things of that nature. Coincidentally, 6 years after that, we had success in Detroit and Indianapolis, so we opened an office in Cincinnati, Ohio. This allowed us exposure to another major vertical industry which we're passionate about, which is the consumer goods industry. Also, having offices in 3 states that are connected was logistically responsible and prudent for us, and allows us to, again, collaboration, resource sharing, and also better coverage for our customers here in the Midwest. Lastly, if you were to look at a density chart of manufacturing, you'd see that there's a whole lot of it right here in the Midwest. So it was a really good place for us to set up our company. Fast forward to today, we're about 75 employees strong, and we've been able to develop a portfolio in several different vertical industries based on our project diversity.
How much of your business would you say is repeat? And for those that do come back, what makes them come back?
Well, a large portion, in fact, of our business is repeat business. Our business ERP system does measure that as a corporate KPI, and typically it's more than 80% of our business is repeat or referral business, which is really something we're incredibly proud of. We think that the secret recipe for us is really a few different factors. Most importantly, honesty, integrity, following up and doing what we say we're going to do. Secondly, we have a really, really proven, repeatable method of project execution. After 25 years, we've managed to really hone our craft and really produce a way of running projects that's very, very repeatable and very efficient. We believe in strong communicators. Most of our technical staff are very apt to pick up a phone and call our customers to resolve problems. And it's not just oral communication, it's in writing. So we're very, very, very strong at communicating with our customers. Longevity is important to us. Having our 25-year history, we feel gives our clients the confidence that Outbound will be around for many, many years for future support. So longevity is a part of that equation. Strong reputation, low attrition rates. We feel we've built a really strong culture at Outbound. Our technical staff and employees develop bonds and relationships with their clients. And it's great when they call many years down the road and they're looking for someone that they really enjoyed working with, and that individual is still here. That's part of our success. Having a sense of humor, I think, is really important in business, especially in our industry. Being down-to-earth people that can relate to one another. And maybe most importantly, and lastly, Lisa, we love what we do. I think the passion and eagerness to solve problems and help people is really evident in the day-to-day business that we do. And that passion and eagerness to help people really, really has built an awful lot of trust and respect with our client base.
225,000. That's how many page views the Industrial Automation Exchange pulled in last year. What's more, 75% of them were unique. What does that mean for you? Simple. If you are a system integrator or supplier who is not maximizing your presence on the exchange, you are missing out on this traffic and the collective authority of this digital marketing powerhouse. The good news? The exchange offers upgrades, packages, and display advertising opportunities to ensure your brand is top of mind during your customers' complicated, research-based buying journey. To learn more about packages and upgrades, visit www.csiexchange.com/packages. To learn more about advertising opportunities, visit www.csiexchange.com/display. Let's face it, it's a digital world out there, and you need to ensure your company doesn't get left behind. Let the exchange go to work for you. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the industries and products and disciplines that you work in. Specifically, are there some that you specialize in, and how come?
Also, good question. Being heavily tied to the automotive industry, one area that our company has had great success and repeat business is in the industrial paint finishing sector of the automotive industry. We paint cars, not only cars, trucks, buses, motorcycles, and all types of other things. Being here in this area, afforded our company that opportunity to work in automotive paint finishing. And to this day, we've done numerous industrial paint shops in that space. The way the vehicles are painted has really been a revolution that's been part of our company's history, quite frankly. Vehicles were painted using spray booths. The paint would be sprayed on in many cases, and in some cases it still is. But nowadays, there's a much more modern method of yielding a really, really high-quality paint job for a vehicle. Nowadays, vehicles are dipped in tanks. There's one electrical charge that's put on the substrate or the chassis or the car body, and then the opposite electrical charge is put on the paint itself. That way, when the chassis is dipped into a tank, the paint goes perfectly around all the nooks and crannies and bolts and rivets, and it produces a much, much higher quality paint job than in the past. Our company is really, really proud of the fact that many, many new automotive models and vehicles out there were painted using our control system and our software. So to this day, we've had a lot of success with automotive paint finishing, and I imagine it will be a large part of our future as well.
I'm picturing just a giant pool of paint that parts get dipped in. Is that basically what happens?
It really is. Yeah, it's a giant tank. If you can picture a giant rollaway dumpster, sometimes you see these large waste receptacles at construction sites, probably similar in size and nature. And the vehicles are presented to these dip tanks using transfer automation and material handling solutions, and they go for a bath. They get dipped in a phosphate E-coat solution, and it's really, really amazing to see the whole process. But that is really the modern proven way in today's day and age of automotive paint finishing, and it's really cool to see the process in person.
How do you make sure that each part is getting the same exact color?
That's a good question. Part of an industrial paint finishing system includes paint mix, and it also includes spot repair stations. There's a lot of quality control that goes into the whole process. Usually they're done in batches. So they'll paint X number of vehicles a certain color, whether it be red or black or blue. And then when a particular batch is exhausted or completed, the system will stop and be repurposed. A new recipe will be called upon to start painting different colors. Most automakers have a very detailed quality control process. So even a very small defect or perhaps a piece of fascia that gets the wrong color, those never even leave the paint shop and the consumers never find out about them. In some cases, it's vision. It's industrial camera systems that are verifying color matching and making sure that it's exactly what the control system called for. That's
super interesting. What suppliers do you work with? Are you certified or endorsed with any you'd like to share?
Yes, we would. Outbound has historically kept a limited number of affiliations. The reason that we only have a few partners is because we really, really want to put a lot of time and energy into those partnerships. We want to invest in training, certification, sales collaboration, marketing efforts, trade shows, etc. So we've been careful over our history to pick our affiliations slowly and carefully. We are a very, very proud Rockwell and Siemens solution partner. Both Rockwell and Siemens are amazing companies. They have cutting-edge technology and solutions. They're both on the forefront of research and development. They have a wide geographical installation base, and we're very humbled and excited for the partnerships we have with those two particular companies. They both have a great future, and we're really, really excited to be part of their affiliation family.
Let's talk about the smartest decision your company has made recently.
And for me, that one's jumps right off the page. Our company suffered with a lot of modular systems. You know, we had clipboards, we had spreadsheets, we had Post-it notes all over the wall. And we realized that in order to successfully grow our business, especially without adding massive amounts of overhead, that we really needed to implement modern business automation. So it took us about a year to vet out all of the different solutions and providers of business automation software on the market today. But after we came to a conclusion and we selected one and we configured one, we could not have been happier. So for example, we had separate software solutions for payroll processing, scheduling, accounting, purchasing, etc. We were able to eliminate all of those separate systems, aggregate and combine them into one mothership system, one software platform that the entire company would have visibility and access to. It's real-time data, so as soon as information gets posted into the system, it's visible to other people. Other examples, it used to take us a day to process our payroll, and now it's about a 30-minute process. And sending out hundreds of custom invoices on a weekly basis would be a day and a half to 2-day task every week, and now that's no more than 2 or 3 hours. So it's really created a lot of efficiencies in our business system. Even the naysayers, even the individuals that tend to be a little more difficult to please, have really rejoiced the visibility that they have to project budgets and status and lead time when they order components, when they're supposed to ship. It really has a lot of intuitive artificial intelligence. We can set up alerts. We can set up reminders. We even wish people happy birthday, and then we turn around and nag them to turn in their timesheets and expenses. So it's been a great thing for us. It reduced cost. It saves time. And, Lisa, it's really appealing to the next generation of engineers that really, embrace modern technology and prefer to use apps to submit their expenses and a web portal to book their travel. So we feel like it's positioned us to grow without adding a lot of admin staff. Absolutely the best decision we've made, at least in the last few years.
Can you share some tips on adoption of these new systems? I know from personal experience, it's not easy to get people to try the new things and get them up to speed on new platforms and things like that. If you had to share a couple lessons learned from you recently going through it, what would be your advice?
It was slow implementation would be the first thing that I would say. I think if you tried to implement vast sweeping change in a short period of time, then the adoption rate's probably going to plummet. So we did this in phases. We rolled out modules slowly. Once a month, we had a goal to configure, implement, and train the staff on one feature. And by doing it in chapters and doing it in little chunks, it felt less daunting for the staff. It felt like there wasn't pressure to learn a new system and use it right away. We gave ourselves an entire year to fully use the system, and I think that was a really good choice. So that would be one tip I'd have for people is take your time, don't rush through that process, and bite off little pieces. The other thing I would recommend is there's some really good user groups out there. I know that I have members of my CSIA peer group that also use the same ERP platform that our company does, and being able to lean on each other has been really beneficial. We can share tactics, scripting, different widgets and data KPIs that we've built through these systems. And just when we think we've hit a wall, we can reach out to some of our friends throughout the CSI community and get some help on how to tweak the system. So I would say, find some other people and companies that are using a similar software platform and engage with them. Strike up a conversation and discuss some of the common challenges you're facing. And I think that's a great way to learn and learn quicker.
I think that's a very unique feature about CSIA in that the members are so willing to share, even with their own competitors, some tips and advice. It's awesome. Okay, so moving on. What makes Outbound optimistic about the future of the automation control systems industry?
There's two things here that I'll touch on. One of them is we're faced with a little bit of a generational challenge in our workforce, specifically as it applies to the manufacturing community. There's a large number of people. I've heard estimates of 80 million people that will be retiring over the next 3 to 5 years and exiting manufacturing positions. So there's a lot of tribal knowledge, a lot of information that those individuals are going to take with them into retirement, off to the golf courses and to the beach and whatnot. That information is going to be lost. it's been more and more challenging to get the younger generations interested and excited about STEM technology, STEM positions. So that's a trend that's actually going to probably cause an increased codependence on subject matter specialists. In other words, they're going to need system integrators more and more over the next 5 to 10 years than probably ever before. So it is something that encourages me about our future. But it is at the expense of losing a lot of really, really quality people in our workforce that have earned the right to go off into retirement. Another thing that really makes me excited about the future of automation is some of the technology that's coming out is really, really groundbreaking. One particular example is it seems that there's a lot of food recalls in the news recently. Anytime you go to the front page of Yahoo or Bing, there's a poultry recall or a bad batch of romaine lettuce. This obviously affects human health. This causes health scares, it causes food recalls, and I firmly believe that modern automation and some of the new technology that's hitting our market is going to allow food producers the ability to eliminate some of those issues. I think it will create better quality control. And honestly, I'm excited to say that I think that some of the things that we're working on will simply create a safer, healthier world, So it's really quality control. Human beings, they unfortunately make mistakes. Their eyes go bad. We get ill. We get injured. Automation doesn't have those same challenges. This equipment will not make mistakes, and I'm just excited about the advancements in quality control and how that relates to a better quality of life for people.
Okay, so let's talk about the opposite of that. What are the challenges you're seeing in the industrial automation space right now?
Well, there's certainly a few, probably actually dozens, but in the essence of being succinct, one that most system integrators would probably agree with me is the talent war. It's difficult to find individuals that really see the earning potential, the job security, and just how rewarding a career in manufacturing can be. It's difficult for us to drum up interest, for us to get the new generation to really see what we see, what an amazing industry this is. So I think that's a challenge. It's a challenge finding people that are passionate about it, that like it, and just generating interest in the next generation of engineers. Another interesting trend that I see in our area, our company prefers to work on a fixed price basis. But being an old school business guy myself, I think that it's a way for us to absorb risk. It's a way for us to allow a customer to control their budgets and know that they're going to pay X for the services that we quote. Notice the trend in our business where the time and energy that it requires to generate a specification, a scope of work, and to align and set expectations prior to the start of a project, that practice is happening less and less. Whether it's the lack of time to generate a scope of work, whether it's the lack of qualified people to do it, I'm really not so sure. But what this is causing is a shift to a lot of time and material work, where system integrators like ours are being thought of more as a flex resource to augment the engineering staffs of some of our customers. And while there's really nothing wrong with that business model and it represents less risk to us, I'm not so sure that's the best for the business space as a whole. So in summary, we're seeing a trend of people wanting to negotiate rates and pay by the hour instead of really take the time to hammer out a scope of work and detailed expectations. That way, fixed price proposals can be generated.
Well, I did it. I attended my first CSIA executive conference. And do you know what the best part about it was? It was meeting and hearing from CSIA members and learning how the association impacts real lives. I've been working with associations for my whole career, and I can honestly say I have never experienced a group of business professionals so willing to share, collaborate, and support one another. That's why I'm so excited to be able to tell you about the newest CSIA membership offer. From now until the 2020 Executive Conference in May in New Orleans, companies that join CSIA will receive an automatic 40% discount off the conference registration fee. Look, this isn't about boosting attendance. It's about making sure CSIA members can fully experience the most valuable benefit the association has to offer, the CSIA Executive Conference. Ready to learn more? Visit www.controlsys.org/CSIA combo. See you in the Big Easy. What about your customers? What challenges are they facing?
Well, there's quite a few. I'll have to go back to the automotive industry, being one that is one that I know very, very much about. I'm going to say that if you were an automotive maker, if you were General Motors or you were Fiat Chrysler or Tesla or BMW, if you were one of those companies, I think it's really difficult to understand where to invest your capital dollars these days. And what I mean by that is if I'm an automaker, should I invest my dollars into the electric vehicle market? Should I invest my dollars into the design and manufacture of more fuel-efficient engine blocks and transmissions due to possible pending federal fuel regulations? We have ride sharing with Uber and Lyft. We have virtual work environments where more and more people performing their jobs remotely and at home. We have individuals that live in urban centers that no longer have a need for an automobile. So I think it's really, really a big challenge for automotive makers, machine builders that supply tooling into the automotive industry to really have that long-term strategical view of where the industry is going and where they should spend that money. I know if I was in their position, I would have a hard time as well. So, these companies need to figure out what they need to do to be leaders in this industry. And I just think it's more challenging than ever before. And the last point I'll make, Lisa, is market sentiment. Market sentiment, what the consumers are doing, what we're feeling, what we're buying, what our fears and what our reluctance to do things are. That's a big part of the automotive industry. There was a shift over the last few years where consumers really stopped buying cars and sedans, and the market sentiment shifted very quickly to trucks and sport utility vehicles. Well, in order for an automaker to change their operations to start making a lot more SUVs and a lot less cars, that takes many, many millions of dollars of investment in retooling, altering their processes, and I don't think that the automotive industry was equipped to handle the change in market sentiment as fast as it's happening these days. So, in other words, people are changing their mind faster than ever before, and it's difficult for the automotive industry to keep up with that.
How should a customer go about choosing a system integrator?
Well, I'm a little biased being a system integrator myself. However, I've also worked on the other side of the fence. I think methods is a real big deal. Being able to do things in a repeatable fashion is a big deal. The reason I say that is every single system that we do is custom and different. So if all the projects are different, having consistency in the methods that we design and implement the systems is of utmost importance. So I would say look at a company's methods, how they execute projects. Detailed documentation is really important. Liability is a concern in manufacturing, so documenting everything that you do, good record keeping, good approvals, very, very, very important. I also think that past experience is a factor. I think everybody was at one point in their lives or their careers where they lacked direct experience in something. So we all have to start somewhere. But there's an innate amount of risk in selecting a system integrator that doesn't have past experience with particular applications and processes. I think we live in an environment where it's important to ask for objective proof, to ask for references and samples, and to actually see firsthand the quality of a system integrator's work. So in summary, methods, experience, and a high level of detailed documentation are three things I would ask anybody to look for when they're selecting a system integrator.
Finally, what's the best advice you could give your younger self just getting started?
It's invest in yourself, specifically in the area of professional development. I think that most things in the world can be described either with physics or with psychology. Those two topics tend to be behind most things in the world and how they work. I think that individuals sometimes have issues being stubborn and not necessarily acknowledging their own faults and their own weaknesses. And I think there's a lot of really, really good professional development courses out there. Dale Carnegie would be one example. And those professional development courses cause individuals to acknowledge their weaknesses. And once you've acknowledged a weakness or something you feel you have an area to improve, then you can take step two, which is learning how to improve on that and actually getting better at it. So if I could go back to my younger self, I didn't take some of these courses until a little later in my career, and it was just really, really refreshing and eye-opening and exciting for me. It caused me to focus on and acknowledge some of my own weaknesses and faults, and that way I could be a better person. Lastly, professional development also really teaches people empathy. And I think empathy is a really, really important part of business and human relations as a whole. I would say invest in yourself, take courses, never stop learning, read books, be in peer groups, anything you can do to expand your own knowledge base and really focus on the things that you're not very good at is going to make you a stronger and a better person.
That's solid advice. Well, that's it for today's episode of Talking Industrial Automation. If you are interested in learning more about Outbound Technologies, you can find them on the Industrial Automation Exchange at www.csiexchange.com. Thanks for listening, and thank you, Chris, for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me.
If you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe in iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also help others find us by leaving a 5-star review and sharing your favorite episodes with colleagues. Thanks for listening to the Talking Industrial Automation podcast. Thanks also to bensound.com and Wistia for the music bumpers. Until next time.